Hello, my name is Reed Murray. I am a person, and you're listening to Local Tampa Artist.
Hey everybody, Brett Cesari here with Local Tampa Artist. Video chatting with me today, I have local music producer Reed Murray. How you doing today, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Thanks for having me. And it was weird to hear you call me a producer. I'll take it.
Viewers, you may recognize Reed. He's in the local band Carrollhood. He also was a drummer for some time for Say Anything, and he releases his own independent music all the time under his own name, Reed Murray. To quench our thirst, he is drinking some delicious beer from Green Bench Brewing, located in St. Pete. It's kind of crazy, you know Chris down there, man. I got to meet him last time I was there. He's a pretty nice guy.
Oh, yeah. You knew that we knew each other? Wow. Very good.
Yeah, it was crazy.
You did your research. That's impressive. Yeah, Chris, first off, excellent brewer, knows his stuff. Green Bench is fantastic, but I've known him, I want to say 10 years or so, way before he opened the brewery. So it's really great just to see him take that and run and build it. But anyway, he's a great guy. So what I'm going to do, I'm pouring it in a glass, and it's a Green Bench beer. It's their Postcard Pilsner, which is one of my favorites, by the way. Not being biased, I think it's just a great beer. I love a good Pilsner, and it's in my King State glass, which
nice.
Very dear friends of mine own and run it, Tim and Nate. So shout out to them as well.
I'm actually at Stilt House Brewery located in Palm Harbor. And I don't know if that rings a bell for you, but the owner is actually Sean Grealish.
I know this. He's another great guy that I know and I haven't seen in quite some time, to be honest. So that's really cool to hear you connect those dots. How did you know?
The camera guy, Jared, is actually one of the brewers here. And, I mentioned your name and he was like, holy shit, I know who Reed is, and he told me that he was one of your teachers back when you were an Olympic gymnast.
Well, first off, I will clarify. I wasn't an Olympic gymnast. I never went to the Olympics. Long story short, I was thinking about college, looking at some schools, recruiting wise, and I had a back injury, so I ultimately just had to stop. But Sean, I know. I mean, I grew up at that gym, and he was one of the coaches there, and he was pretty much our residential physical therapist too. And you've really started off with a bang on your research here. That freaks me out in like the best way. That's awesome.
I want to talk about your current work, but I also first want to share a little bit of history about your indent in the music world. I know you were in the band Marksman, and then you guys became Tall Heart. To my knowledge, your Carrollhood project started around 2011. Yeah,
I think that's about right. Yeah.
So if that's true, that means 2021 will be your guys' 10th year anniversary. So congratulations to that.
And the best part about that is in the last 10 years, when that's said and done, we would have released maybe 10 songs.
And done a couple shows.
And two or three shows.
I love it though. I still appreciate that you guys got stuff out. Like that's all.
Hey, we don't rush things. That's how we work.
You entered 2012 pretty strong. Carrollhood releasing Afraid and then Mr. Tampa. Jump forward about a year and Carrollhood releases Violence. Awesome song. Tell us about Violence and the time period for Carrollhood during then.
Okay. So the first three songs we released, it was much more, I think Nate Young. I'll at least start in the beginning because Nate and I had an idea. We grew up together. We've known each other for as long as I can remember. And there was a point we were sitting at a Starbucks. We were talking about each other's music we were playing around because we'd always play around with stuff on the side. And then Nate asked me if I'd be interested in him and I both doing something together. So that really sparked it. And we both had kind of our various demos we were sitting on, we were sending back and forth to each other. And then we wanted to talk about bringing somebody in to record and produce whatever the heck we were going to put out. So that's when we were talking to Tim, who Nate was much closer to at the time. I knew Tim just through acquaintances and whatnot, but he approached him to start producing and recording it. And then Tim liked it enough to where he wanted just to basically be in the band with us. So it kind of went from there. So we went and did those 3 songs kind of just mostly from what Nate and I had over a couple of years, maybe just sitting. And then we just kind of pooled it all together, recorded vocals and whatnot. And then I think Violence was a lot more of a targeted effort from the 3 of us. We started from scratch. We didn't have old ideas that we were putting forward with that release, if that makes sense. So it really started with that song Violence. Right in your head, but in my mouth it's violent.
A date I'd like to highlight is actually June 12th, 2013, when you played with Say Anything at the Orlando House of Blues. Okay. I just love that venue. I love that you guys I love that you personally keep going back to it.
Me too. Oh man. So House of Blues, I'm glad you said that, because I think that was the most favorite part of getting to do what I've done, is come back to hometown areas, whether it's Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, and play at venues that I grew up going to see my favorite bands. Like that never got lost on me. And it still doesn't, especially House of Blues. Like there have been a couple shows just very memorable that I'll never forget. So to be able to go on that stage and play myself, first of all, I feel like I'm not worthy, but also it's just a trip to think about and do that and have that experience.
So in 2014, your local friends and your family, they actually got to hear you on Say Anything's newest album, Hebrews. Then you got a tour with them for their Is a Real Boy 10-year anniversary. It wasn't until November of 2014 that we actually got to hear from Just Reed again. In November, you released Holiday by My Side. Then we're getting to 2015, and you start just pushing more music. You released Dissipate. Called Carry You. You released another EP right after that in 2016 called Limit. Right after that, Carrollhood makes a return, and you guys actually do your first live show at New World Brewery in Tampa. 2016, you continued to stay busy. When the Front Bottoms came to Tampa, you got to play with them in March. Then you did your first music video with Say Anything as well. Then you went on tour again and happened to come back to Orlando, but this time you went to the Beacham. Then in late 2017, you finally released Where, a teaser for your EP Fade. In 2018, Carrollhood actually got to play at the Crowbar. Then that same year, Say Anything visited the last time, and you actually got to take the stage with them.
I was going to start with something else, but if you're talking about that show in particular, that was special just because at that point, obviously I decided to stop touring with them, and they're like a family, and it's hard right now because no one's touring, but there was always a comfort when I did decide to lay that part of my life down, that if anything, I'll see all those guys here and there. That show in particular was so much fun just because I hadn't seen them in quite some time, and I took a day off work to go down there, got a hotel room so I could really spend time with those guys. I'll give it to Remington Dupree, so it's Garen who plays bass. His brother filled in to do drums after I had left, and that first night, he just asked me randomly if I wanted to do a couple songs, which caught me off guard because I was rusty.
Mhm.
So I was a little worried that I was gonna mess something up, but I ended up doing, I can't remember, maybe at least 2 or 3, I think. Maybe it was 3. But it was so much fun just to be up there, and it was just wild because it felt like no time had passed.
We then are in 2019, and you release Wake Up, Rewind. Later in that same year, 2019, you then go back to Orlando House of Blues with Carrollhood, but this time it was for the Season's Greetings of Anne Boleyn, which had a sick lineup. That was really cool that you guys were able to do that. 2020 then slows down. In September, you dropped Within Without.
I spent a lot of time on that one, to be honest. More than maybe I think I've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the same, but it just felt like,
yeah,
with being home and everything, it just felt like I was more involved and nitpicky, for better or for worse. So I spent a lot of that time on those 4 songs, and I'm happy with it.
What do you have coming up?
I wish I could give you something. Honestly, nothing. And I'm okay with that. I'm working my normal day job and staying busy with that. Busy with raising a baby with my wife.
Absolutely.
And being in COVID still.
Mm-hmm.
And there were talks about potentially doing a Carrollhood show, to be honest. Really end of this year, but it just didn't make sense, obviously, with
right
COVID still being very much a part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think I'll always work on music on my own and see if it makes sense to put it out. So I think that's very much still something in the back of my mind that I'll work on. But I really would love to do another Carrollhood EP, and I know everyone else does. We're just trying to figure out again that coordinating of schedules between us. But it sucks. I think we would have done that sooner if it hadn't been for a pandemic. But
right.
And I'm still trying to be pretty safe, not really be around people, which is hard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think as far as this is my really long-winded answer to say, I don't know, and hopefully more Carrollhood. That's just the way I'm thinking about it as far as music is concerned.
Awesome. What are your favorite local venues? Okay,
this was actually something I was going to mention earlier. One of your comments about Crowbar.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that venue.
Mm-hmm.
And it, in fact, was the first venue I've ever played with Marksman. At the time, we were called Glasgow. So we went from Glasgow to Marksman to Tall Heart, but I digress. So we basically played our very first show at Crowbar, and I'll never forget that night. I was so nervous. And Tom, the owner there, he's just a sweetheart, very supportive, and has been over the years. And I think having a venue like them around is just a staple in the Tampa music scene. I love that. I love Orpheum, but I have a soft spot for the old Orpheum. If you recall being there, or if you ever did go, it was a totally different spot on the other side of Ybor. New World Brewery was a great spot. It still is, just a whole new location now, but like that was another special place when Carrollhood played our first show there. That was really fun just to do it there. And then obviously what we talked about earlier, just some of the bigger venues, House of Blues Orlando.
Right.
Their staff has always been awesome.
Final question.
It's the beer.
Where can your listeners find your work?
I'm such a bad self-promoter. It's going to be I don't know why I'm freezing on this. It's Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, like anything you can find, like your streaming service, TikTok even, I think. I don't even know how that works. I don't have a TikTok account. YouTube. Yeah. Honestly, you name it. If you type my name, Reed Murray, and then maybe a song title, you can find it. Once you get past Lou Reed showing up, when you type Reed, then you can kind of filter in from there.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Local Tampa Artist. Thank you, Reed, for taking the time to talk with us today. It really was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this very much, and obviously one day, hopefully we can do it face to face. But in the meantime, be well and eat your greens, drink your beer. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, viewers, for taking the time to watch us as well. Thank you, Green Bench Brewing, for letting us do a shout out to them. Thank you, Stilt House Brewery, for letting me do it inside of their house today. I'm Brett Cesari, and this was Local Tampa Artist.
If we find tomorrow, will we work it out? Long time, it is clear that I can figure out. I will reach out for whatever life can bring.
All right. Well, let me drink this for a second. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. Dude, don't be nervous. You're good. You're doing great.